Hello everybody and welcome to Mark Goldbridge. Today, is it day 4 of this vlog that we're doing in this unprecedented time? Listening to the PM Boris Johnson earlier, and I think every day with this press conference that goes out, it does pretty much bring it home just what we're doing. But feeling a little bit more positive today. I think that we will have roller coaster ride emotions. I think depression and mental health is a very important thing, and for me, this is part of why I'm doing this as well as a vlog through this difficult time that we're going through personally and collectively. But just wanted to start off with a light-hearted scenario, or maybe not a light-hearted. Maybe it isn't. But I just want to give you a scenario and then I'll give you an answer. So I was at school when I was about 9 years old, and look, I was quite intelligent but naughty. That was pretty much me at school, and basically I'd not done very well at my work over the morning lesson, and the teacher at the time was like, "Oh, you could be so much better. Why don't you work as well as Stephen does?" And Stephen was stood there, and I was stood there, and the teacher was there, and she was like, "Look at Stephen's work, he's so good." And this was happening in front of the whole class. So it was humiliation for me and how great Stephen is. I didn't even like Stephen that much. I felt he was a bit of a teacher's pet. He always beat me in the running race, and no matter how hard I tried, he'd always beat me in the running race, and I didn't like it. Anyway, she was like, "Oh, maybe you could be like Stephen. Stephen's so great, right?" The great scenario about this is, though, and the decision you've got to make is, while she was saying how great Stephen's work was, Stephen was just about to sit down while I was stood up next to him. And as Stephen sits down, the chair is next to your right foot. Dilemma time. Do you pull the seat away, or do you take the L and do you turn the scenario where you're being slightly humiliated by your teacher and just let it carry on, or do you play for the quick laugh and get into inevitable trouble? That's the scenario you've got there, and you've got Stephen's backside in your hands, quite literally. So look, to play it through while you're thinking there, teacher is there going, "You could be. Why aren't you like Stephen? He's so good at his work." Stephen's just about to sit down on a chair you're next to. The whole class is basically watching. What do you do? Well, I pulled the chair away, and lo and behold, I got the laughs, the short-term laughs, and then I got the long-term detention and trouble. And the standard line that teachers always say when you do something to somebody else: "You're lucky they didn't break their back. If you broke their back, you'd be paying them money for the rest of their life because he'd be in a wheelchair." I'm sure we've heard all that as well. But I was just thinking about that today. These decisions we make, I'd probably still pull the chair away now. I'd probably, if I had an audience, I'd probably take that risk. But don't do it, because you could be paying them back for the rest of their life if they seriously injured their back. Yeah, it was wrong. It was wrong. But look, a little bit of a revenge story as well, because look, people will say, "Oh, that was horrible what you did." This is a story that also, when I was thinking about that, I was trying to think, has anybody ever done anything horrible to me, right? New Year's Eve, I can't remember what year it was. New Year's Eve, I think it was one of the years where they did a TGI Friday. Remember that show with TFI Friday with Chris Evans, Fanta Pants? They did a live New Year's Eve show, so anyone want to Google that? I could have been as young as 15. I think I was about 19, but it might not fit in age-wise. Anyway, I didn't want to go down the local pub on New Year's Eve. I was bored of it. I think I just broke up with a girl. I didn't want to go. And I'd already said to the lads, "I'm not going. I'm just going to stay in. I'm watching TFI Friday with cans. I'm giving it a skip this year." Anyway, lo and behold, they all come up from the pub at about 10:30 and say, "You've got to come down the pub." And I was like, "I don't want to go down the pub." "Who's down the pub?" "She's not there. She's gone to town." "All right, I'll come down the pub." So I go down the pub. I get absolutely little bit drunk, right? Okay. And then I just, like, somebody says it's about 2:00 in the morning, because it's a local pub, so New Year's well and over pasta, and well and truly past, not pasta. God, I haven't got any pasta. Don't come out looking for pasta, right? That's like toilet roll. And somebody suggests, "Oh, why don't we go up the woods and as a dare, let's walk through the woods." Now, the woods on the outskirts of where I lived was probably about sort of half a mile. It was these big woods, and you could walk from one side of the woods to the other side of the woods in 5 minutes, and there was a path. But there's no street lights in the woods. It's pitch black. It's pitch black to get there, and then when you're in the woods, you can't see your hand in front of your face. So, you're full of beer and everything else. Yeah, let's go and do that. So we get up there. We're all drunk. There's about 3 or 4 of us, and we start walking through. And literally, you start walking through the woods, and you're all brave. And then suddenly, like, grabbing onto each other in a line. "I can't bloody see. I don't even know where to go." "Oh, carry on. And now I was at the front. I don't like this sort of thing anyway. I was at the front, and what happened then is I just can't carry on, and we ended up walking out, and that was it, and we all went home. That was it. The next pub with a hangover, just sat to what were we up to last night. My jeans are all muddy, my shirt's all muddy, and everyone was like, oh yeah, this is what we did. But they then said to me, the plan actually was to just give you a shove and run back, the three of us, and leave you in the woods when we're about halfway in, but you never got far enough. And to this day I always think, you know what, if we'd got halfway through and they'd shoved me and legged it, I don't know what I would have done in a scenario like that, because I don't like that sort of a scenario. I wouldn't have known my way out. I would have been absolutely petrified. So yeah, that would have been not very nice, would it? But let's get talking about what's going on in the world at the moment. Well, we know what's going on in the world at the moment. England, UK is moving towards lockdown. What does lockdown mean? Will it mean police? Will it mean army? Will it mean, actual lockdown in your house? I think some people are already experiencing this. I lived in Ireland. It's St Patrick's Day today. Happy St Patrick's Day. I don't think many Irish people ever thought they'd be spending St Patrick's Day not in a pub, but you're not. Commiserations. This is the sign of the times. You can sit at home and have a drink, but it's not the same, is it? People are having things they enjoy taken away from them. But as my wife said today, spot on. I think what we need to do is stop concentrating on the things we don't have and concentrate on the things that we do have. I think that's really important. And I also think that, and I predicted this a couple of days ago, so I don't want to repeat myself, but I know this world we live in, especially in relation to social media, and a lot of people just want to make a noise. And maybe I'm a bit hypocritical here, because I like making a bit of a noise. If you tweet, you're making a noise, aren't you? But I think some people are making the wrong noise. I mean, I've mentioned Piers Morgan a lot. There are other blue tickers out there, ex-footballers as well, who just every morning seem to be should be doing this, and this. And somebody did it this morning about businesses and restaurants and pubs, and I was like, we're day 4. It's day 4. Do you not think the government's first priority is to save lives, start looking at the NHS, start looking at beds at the NHS, start looking at equipment for people who are going to be seriously ill? Definitely will be doing stuff about business, because they cannot afford loads of businesses to go out of business. So they definitely will do that. But people are already moaning about, and my Facebook's full of it as well. I've got people on Facebook that I'm friends with who are just talking about, oh, they're not doing enough for my business, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, can you just give it a few days? This time last week, we lived in a normal world. We're a week later, and we're living in a world we don't know what it is yet, and you're already moaning about your business. Now, tonight, the Chancellor of the Exchequer has already put in place some plans for businesses, £30 billion of funds, whether it's loans, business rate cuts, whatever. There will be more, but it's just the first step. They were always going to do this, but people just want to moan and be negative. And somebody said to me today, I've been quite impressed with Boris Johnson. I think this could be his Winston Churchill thing, on sort of a Poundland version, because it's not a world war, but it's if he steps up the plate and does well, it's great. I said that's never going to happen, because we live in a world now where we've got too many cynics and too many people who want to moan, and no matter what you do, especially when you've got different decisions to make, no matter what you do, people will say it's wrong. And I think that I can't control what people are thinking here, but instead of thinking about what you haven't got, think about what you have got. I think that's a mindset we can all take on board, because so many times we only come through this together. And if we're going to have, and divisions, look, division for me is par and par for the course, whether it's Manchester United, whether it's the manager, whether it's Paul Pogba, whether it's, results, whatever, there's division. My day-to-day life is division, and that's not driven by me, it's driven by opinions. That's what I operate in. And division, of course it is. It's not human. It's not. There's not an overall feeling, and there's division there. But I think what we need from this. One of my kids was moaning today because she doesn't want the school to close, and I said, look, they're going to close. I want them to not. They're going to close, and they're going to close for this reason. And you can be sad about it, and that's absolutely fine. But they're going to close the schools. Oh, I'm not going to see my friends. I said, you will. You can Skype and stuff like that. But we've got to do it for these reasons. And she was like, I know. And I said, but I understand it's disappointing. But more than anything, that disappointment, you've got to own it, you've got to feel it, and then you've got to come through it, and then we've got to look at the positive. And if we do it properly, it will be shorter than we want. It will be shorter. But I think there's too many people out there who just want to moan. I want to moan. I want to put up an obstacle. I'm hoping that over the next weeks and months that we will see that eroded. I'm hoping that these outed for the miserable obstructors that they are. Some of these people have got millions of followers and they're moaning. Like, how's about spreading some positivity? How's about being a voice for good, a voice for, instead of saying, oh, we're all going to bloody die, oh, this is not like it, oh, I don't like this. Always a positive angle. There's always I've had friends who were, diagnosed with terminal cancer. They were never going to get over it. And whilst they were devastated and whilst they did have bad days, the vast majority of their time was spent positive, trying to live every moment for what they can. And I think we've got to do that. We're not all going to die by a long way. We're not. We're being deprived of things that we want, that we will get back. But we will get back there quicker if we take this on board quicker and do what we're being asked to do quicker. Out of this, but we'll also have everything we wanted back, and we may appreciate it more. So look, I know yesterday I was pissed off. Today I'm like, I'm feeling better. Tomorrow might be something that really pisses me off again. That's just the way it's going to be, isn't it? But yeah, we definitely do need to that outside the box thinking. Are we used to this? And many of you are creative. My mind's creative. Like when I was a kid, I wrote years old and I loved the story, and it was a story called Pull. And at that time we had Rocky 1, 2, 3, everything had a sequel. And I wrote this story, it was late 80s probably, something like that, maybe early 90s anyway. And I wrote this story called Pool. It wasn't a swimming pool, it was about the crap version of snooker that Americans play. I do like pool. Anyway, it was sort of loosely based around me, because my granddad had a pool table in rooms. And I don't want to be sexist here, it was my gran and granddad's pool. Women can play pool. She didn't. It was my granddad's, and it was his house. It was their house, although he probably bought it. But what I'm trying to say is it was a pool table, and I used to play on it. So this story was, semi-autobiographical in a way. And what the story was, that this lad from England was playing pool, and he just got really good at it. And by the time he was 13, he was the best pool player in England. And then he played in the Pool World Cup, and he won that. I don't think pool has this, by the way. I sort of merged pool with football shit. So think about the game of pool, but with Football World Cup. And there was a big rival from America, of course. And I ended up winning it against all the odds. But you can guess what happens here. Pool 2. I got as full as Pool 4 before my teacher said, your next story cannot be about pool and the story of basically you. And especially when you're only 8 years old and in Pool 4, you fall on hard times and turn to drink. I said, yeah, but I'm not 8 in the book. I'm now 17. She says, yeah, but you're 8 years old. You shouldn't be reading. How do you know about all this? Have you got problems at home? I said, no. I was just watching Cocktail the other night. Well, you shouldn't be watching that. We all do. Anyway, so yeah, I've always been creative, and I'm sure a lot of people are. And I think in this time that we're in at the moment, my advice would be try to be creative. And I'm not telling you to go and paint a picture. I'm not telling you to write your own serial of books. You might want to do that, but you might want to pick up a book. You might want to read a book. You might want to read a number of books. You might want to watch a trilogy of films you never got. There might be a box set. You might want to clear your garage out. You might have a business and you might think of a different way of doing it. Like when people were talking about pubs and restaurants today, I actually said, well, look, everybody who works in a pub and restaurant, waiters, waitresses, chefs, whatever. How's about this? Supermarkets are going to need more staff because we're going to need food. There's a big demand for food. People will get ill who are working in supermarkets, so they're going to need backup staff. They're going to need short-term staff. And when the pubs and the restaurants open again, they're going to need their staff back. So people can get work that way out of the box. Manufacturing lines, etc., etc. Also, if you own a local pub, my local pub, if they have to shut down, you don't necessarily have to totally shut down. You could keep your kitchen open. You do very nice pizzas. You do nice food. You could deliver. Look, there's a little bit of cost there, but you could probably cover those costs and keep in business as well. So out of the box thinking will get us through this. Not everybody has to go into despair. So yeah, look, I think that hopefully we will start to feel more positive. I hope more than anything, and it won't totally disappear, of course it won't, but I hope more than anything that we start to see leaders. Because I'm thinking today, and I might develop this tomorrow as well, I was thinking today, is there any comparisons between World War II and now? No. That was a world war where we were being bombed and nobody knew who was going to die and who was going to survive. Now we've got an epidemic, or whatever you want to call it, an illness that will kill people who are elderly and underlying health conditions. The vast majority of healthy people are going to be absolutely fine. They're going to be inconvenienced. So there isn't really any similarity. The threat to life is totally different. Also, I think the camaraderie and unity in the World War is far better than now. And that's something we can learn from then. Why do we have to be divided? Why do we have to be an argumentative society? Why do we have to be an inward-thinking, selfish society? Let's be different. Let's look out for each other. Let's be more, even if it's just a short-term thing, let's be more community-led. Because, look, worst-case scenario, and this isn't going to happen, right? If there's a loaf of bread on the supermarket shelf, and there's 10 people who want that loaf of bread, right? What do you want to happen? Do you want everybody to try and grab that piece of bread, fight each other for that loaf of bread, and somebody comes out on top, maybe seriously injuring 4 or 5 people, maybe even killing one person to get that loaf of bread to take it home? Or do 10 people go, there's one loaf of bread there, we can divide that and have 2 or 3 slices each. It's a big loaf of bread. I've never heard of a 30-slice loaf of bread, but you know what I mean. And the obvious answer for what we need for survival, because that's what this is all about, is to share the loaf of bread, not fight for the loaf of bread. Toilet roll, pasta, whatever. We're doing these things. We're stopping large gatherings. We're stopping schools eventually. We're working from home. We're isolating the elderly. We're doing it to protect and save lives. We are contradicting that by fighting for toilet roll and pasta and hoarding it. We're doing this to help and protect and save lives for everybody. On the other hand, we are hoarding stuff from the shops, so there's nothing. I went into the local shop today and the shelves were bare again. And I think, that's the mindset we need to get into. Why are we doing this? For everybody. So let's be for everybody. That's what I'm hoping we're going to see over the coming weeks and months. And we need to start exposing and outing these people who destroy that, whether it's the Blue Tick Brigade or whether it's somebody taking 40 bloody toilet rolls when they live on their own. We need to be good citizens. That's what we need. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Please do smash a like and subscribe if you are new. Be back again tomorrow. I hope you're enjoying these. They're good for me, and I hope they're good for you as well. And I will speak to you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.